is here to entertain and destroy through the power of me magic. And welcome to this channel's first community poll. This was things I did on other channels in the past to make it more interesting, to have you guys essentially be the boss of the topics instead of me choosing, random topics that usually either suck. So out of 22 votes, you guys voted for Vladimir Putin and why he laughs at Biden's threats, and Creepy Time, Nephalim, do they exist? So let's jump right in, and I have notes, so pardon if I'm reading. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, born in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, October 7th, 1952. He's former KGB, trained with the 401st KGB school in Leningrad, was counterintelligence. His early job was monitoring foreigners and consular officials. From 1985 to 1990, he was in East Germany doing God only knows what, and I don't think we want to know, probably wet works and other things. Later, he would become FSB director in 1998. Putin has been in power a total of 17 years. Not consecutively, there's a small sliver of time where he wasn't, but this man's been in power for 17 years. So he's outlasted multiple U.S. presidents, and he's outlasted 8 assassination attempts, believe it or not. So Putin is hardcore. His mitts are pure iron. Russia used to be ruled by oligarchs post-collapse. They were just these shadowy businessmen and shadowy, connections to the old world that kind of dictated how things ran. But Putin essentially kicked them out. He said, you can either work with us or you can leave. And there's another third option there, that if you stayed and resisted, you would probably more than likely end up dead. So most oligarchs were chased out of Russia. And before anyone gets in and says, Putin's an authoritarian madman, he kills opposition leaders. And Russia is a different animal. Westerners cannot look at Russia with pure precision, go, well, this is Russia's problem here. No, Russia is a different animal. And it's a world that the West cannot understand or tame. Regardless of what people say or know, in Russia, you must rule with iron will, or your enemies outside and inside will depose or kill you. And this leads into the main section where I didn't have notes. Putin laughs at Biden's threats. If you don't know, recently Biden told Putin, if you invade Ukraine, we're gonna put economic sanctions on you, buddy. Right? And this is a guy who I just told you was ex-KGB, has been through some of the heaviest shit, 8 assassination attempts. He's even been through, I think, at the time of his rule, Grozny, which if you haven't looked up Grozny is this town in Chechnya that had 2 wars, countless civilian and Russian deaths, and there was a peace treaty around about the time he came into power, and the guy of the Chechens who was a folk hero to the Chechens, Judayev, I think Putin actually hit him with 2 cruise missiles. Judayev was such a hard bastard, they had to hit him with 2 cruise missiles. But it's a situation now where Chechnya and Grozny, if you look at it now, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was essentially during the time, the 90s and 2000s, a total war zone, destruction, mayhem. But now if you look at it, it's a pretty beautiful city and beautiful place. And I'm not standing for Putin here. I'm just saying that in Russia, it's just a different world. And Westerners and people in the West cannot point and go, oh, this is how we fix Russia. You just can't. It's a totally different frozen world. And people here in the West often give Putin a lot of shit, and I can see why, because if you oppose Putin, weird things happen to you, like being stabbed in the streets of London, murdered in your own hotel room, or even eating nerve gas. But these people knew the threats when you go up against Putin. So Putin is just this ironclad character that the only thing Biden has to threaten this man with is economic sanctions. This is Russia. And if you guys don't know, Russia, back in World War II, threw so many troops. Did I seriously have my bowls in the back? Holy crap. Ghetto. So Putin, or Russia rather, they threw so many infantry and so many Russian troops at the Germans ran out of ammunition shooting them. They just got zerged, overran. And of course, Germany was suffering ammunition shortages. Their tanks couldn't start up because it was so cold in the Russian winters that the oil in them gets chunky and it can't run through the engine. And of course, there was the 12th Army, the Germans? They got frostbite so bad in their hands that their fingers swole, and they couldn't operate the triggers of their guns. That's how bad and dire things were for the Germans. And on top of that, you have swarms of angry Bolsheviks and communist Russians and just Russians in general, conscripts. Russia even opened up all their prisons and were like, hey, you want to fight for Mother Russia? Come on, get your freedom. And the people they threw in prison for political dissidents were now unleashing their wrath on the rest of Western Europe, Germany. And again, can't fault them for that, because if you look what Germany did, it wasn't exactly a victimless situation. So Russia is just a country with a people that, I will say this out of respect, are chiseled out of stone. Most humans are made out of clay. Some are made out of sandstone. But the Russians are chiseled out of straight up the Slav mountains up there. God just chiseled these hard-nosed people out of stone. And yeah, Putin may be an authoritarian tyrant, but he maintains order. And if something was to happen to Putin, that's when the West should be really, really scared. Because a man like Putin, he may be mad, air quotes, he may be totalitarian and authoritarian, but he maintains order. He keeps those Russian nuclear missiles where they're at. He keeps the military where they're at. Through his rule, there's order and security. But if he gets deposed or if something happens to him, then Russia becomes a very different animal. So you have to pick your poison with this situation, regardless of your opinion on the man, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. So that's that for that topic. Putin laughs at Biden because Putin has been through some shit. The man is pretty unshakable. And in fact, if I was Biden, I wouldn't even threaten economic sanctions, because a mad Russian, if you piss off Russian, that could be pretty fucking bad. These people hold grudges, and if they come at you, they're coming at you hard. So Ukraine, I love Ukraine, but you guys better watch your P's and Q's, because there's about 100,000 angry Russians on your border. And of course, to top that off, I love Ukraine. Ukraine deserves to be independent and from Russian rule, but I ain't about to fight a whole bunch of angry Slavs in their Russian tundra. No, my ancestors did that before. It didn't quite work out, and I'm not about to repeat that process. So, Nephalim, this is probably the most interesting topic, and of course I do have to start with some Bible verses, because within Christian lore, well, not lore, according to Christian truth and philosophy, they do and have exist. So, Genesis 6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, when the Bible says that essentially these fallen angels had relations with women, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, and men of renown. So, through this hybridization, whether purposefully or not, it gave birth to giants and men with abilities, if you can say that. Genesis 6:17, and behold, I do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. So, of course, there was a flood, because humanity got so depraved, so violent, so degenerate, that God was like, I can't do anything with these people, so he caused a flood, which might have cleansed the world of them, but there's a twist. As in Genesis 4, it says, and after that, in those days and after that. So somehow, either the Nephilim discovered a way to survive the flood, or the Nephilim continued to survive through genetics, through lineage, which is a very interesting, kind of scary idea that these fallen angels still exist to this day through human lineage. And let's see, I think I even said that. I'll just read this too. However, I theorize that some of these Nephilim survived or continue on in human genetics because giants exist post-flood. You have Goliath, David and Goliath, and you have the giants among the Moabites. I think when Joshua and the people of Israel came to Israel, it was inhabited by a group of people called the Moabites, and they had giants. The scouts even came back to Joshua, and they're like, yeah, there's fruit trees, there's food, there's wheat, but there's fucking giants. They didn't exactly say that, it's me. There's giants. And of course, Joshua, the badass guy, goes, there's giants, so we just trust in God. And eventually, long story short, the Moabites were totally cleansed from the face of the earth. And Nephilim, are Nephilim all evil? I don't think so, but in the same thought, are they all good? So here's where it gets interesting. So are Nephilim literally still walking around? Who knows? If they're spirits, technically they could. But again, if some men, women are descendants of Nephilim, then technically they are walking around and among us, and none of us would even know, would we? And are we all descendants of these fallen angels? That could be. That could explain people being taller, some people having innate abilities and telepathy or other things. Or this goes into the big supernatural question, which not a lot of people are. Some people have probably been rolling your eyes at this point, but it's a very real thing within Christian culture, and not even Christian, but maybe even parts of Judaism too, that there's these species of angel-human hybrids still among us, right? Maybe that explains why people have, again, these supernatural abilities, or are giants, or extra tall, extra smart, or just gifted with various things. Could very well be. It could just be, depending on your opinion, if you're not a believer or follower, it could just be tells and lore to make you think. But if you had to ask me, I think it's been well proven throughout human history that humans, there are some among us that are gifted with innate abilities. If you look up any of these stories about the Medal of Honor winners, in America's military, those people have some pretty amazing stories. There's one where the guy survived throwing himself on a grenade. There's just events in human history, not even just among Medal of Honor recipients, but throughout human history, of just humans doing these otherworldly, outlandish, almost supernatural things. So maybe that's what that is. Maybe we all have some form of special lineage from Nephilim. And if that's heresy, I apologize. But it could very well be that's maybe why people have foresight. There's, hopefully, I'm not getting too specific here, but there's an internet friend of mine who, their family just has weird visions. They can see into things and sense things about the future. So who's to say that the unexplainable is really explainable from past things that happened in humans' history, or even religiously with the starting of the world, the ending of the world through the flood. And again, the Bible, there's over 142, there's over 140 verses mentioning the Nephilim. You can look this up, and there's 140 different verses mentioning the Nephilim. So who's to say that in humanity's ancient past that a king or Nephilim himself just didn't decide, I'm going to make an empire of human and Nephilim. We're going to have a whole shitload of giants, and we're going to rule this. And That could be. No one really knows. And as far as the conspiracy theory on giants, there's a big conspiracy theory group that believes that the information and discoveries about giants is obscured and hidden, which I would believe that because it challenges the natural idea of the world, and it solidifies the belief and the proof of the Bible, the existence of other things than the government and the government's power. And that's why religion, mostly Christians in the past, have been persecuted. Or just religious people in general, whether you're Sikh or Hindi, who suffered under the Muslim Mughals. Having a hardcore belief system means you answer to someone else other than government and other than man's rule. So that's probably why persecution existed, or maybe that's just differences in Nephilim, right? The good, or the ones that have semi-good nature, and the ones that have the bad. Or who knows, maybe the Nephilim, by other people's definition, are all evil. But then again, would that explain crazy people, mass shooters? Would that explain other serial killers? It could very well explain it, couldn't it? That someone is just a descendant of, for lack of a better term, bad seed. So anyways, hopefully you found this first community poll video interesting. If you drop 10 likes on this video, I'll do 2 more videos on the other 2 topics that didn't get many votes. So smash that like if you want to see 2 additional videos that are follow-ups on this, and I'll do those. Or if you thought this was dumb or silly, smash a dislike or comment your thoughts below, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for engaging in the community, or the community poll-picked topics. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you guys next time.
Patriotism is dead. There's only rebels and tyrants now.
Strange.
A world ready for the righteous and the pure to inherit.
Don't believe in surrenders. No, I still got my saber, Reverend. Didn't turn it into no plowshare either.
I'm taking over this territory.